Welcome back, folks. I hope your summers went well. I thought that since I've wrapped up Season 1 of Snark Theater, I owed it to you to rant about some other horrible women for a change. What I've compiled here are my personal least favorite female characters. When I say least favorite, I'm talking about characters who generally aren't supposed to be the villain, annoying, or too unlikable. Some of the girls on my list are the antagonists of their respective media, but if they qualify, it's only because they managed to be 10 times worse than I feel they were intended to be. Therefore, sit back, relax, and listen to me slam the worst representatives of the female gender that fiction has to offer. These are Kyoko's top 26 least likable female characters. Number 26, Sookie Stackhouse and Tara Thornton from True Blood. We of course have to start off this list with the most idiotic show on the airwaves. True Blood started out as a fun, irreverent, guilty pleasure that played with different vampire tropes, but then ultimately started taking itself seriously, which is a bad thing because the writers have no idea what they're doing. This is most clear in the characterizations of Sookie and Tara. Sookie is a bubble-headed moron with delusions of being an action girl, while Tara is just an unlikable ball of hatred with an ever-quivering bottom lip and the worst southern accent ever concocted. My biggest problem with Sookie is that she always sasses people without having the muscle or the power to back it up. She always runs headfirst into danger without a plan, and she acts like she's some kind of feminist badass, when in reality, she has been rescued more times than Mary Jane Watson. I absolutely hate shows that think they're being progressive but actually fall prey to the same stupid stereotypes as the ones they're trying to avert. Tara, however, is just a useless waste of time. She wasn't always this way, mind you. In Season 1, Tara really did pull off the sassy, angry black woman role because she hadn't gotten dragged into all this stupid supernatural crap yet. Her crush on Jason was downright adorable, her relationship with Sookie was fine, and her friendship with Lafayette was amusing. After Season 2, everything went downhill and she turned into a rage monster and a hypocrite. She is just an unpleasant character with little to nothing to add to the True Blood story. Number 25, Dorothy from The Big O. The Big O was one of those shows that I don't really like, but I can't turn away because it's basically Japanese Batman, and who can say no to that? To be honest, I didn't watch the whole show. I used to record episodes when it came on Adult Swim, but I could never get through it for two reasons. One, the plot is insanely complicated and never fully explained. Two, I really cannot stand Dorothy, nor can I stand Dorothy Rogers shippers. Now, don't get offended. It's not all of the Dorothy Rogers shippers. It's just a vast majority of them. I simply cannot comprehend how you can ship an emotionless, personality-less robot with the charming ass-kicking entity that is Roger Smith. She literally has no emotions. How is that a ship? What's more is that Dorothy doesn't really do a whole lot to advance the plot. She's semi-useful, and that just frustrates me even more. However, she's low on my list because I didn't finish the show, and so her presence may eventually become fully justified. But as it stands, I've always found her to be a dull character with little to add to an already overly complicated show. Number 24, Yuki from Vampire Knight. Vampire Knight got a passing mention in my Guilty Pleasures review, and I still feel the same way about it now that I did then. It was great back when I was in love with Kiryu Zero, but now I'm no longer a lovesick teenager and I realize what a crappy manga it is, with an even worse anime adaptation. Vampire Knight took the same approach as Stephanie Meyer to the vampire mythos. That is, there are no similarities between the general consensus for a vampire and the vampires we see in Vampire Knight. They can walk around in daylight, they don't drink blood because it's not nice, and they're barely even dangerous. But that's not the worst part. Yuki is the worst part of Vampire Knight because she is a boring, simpering, pathetic waste of skin cells. At the very least, she's not as selfish as Bella Swan, but she's just as useless in a fight, and there's all this drama made over her that doesn't stand up to much criticism. It takes her dozens of chapters to finally develop into something resembling a person, but then it's quickly taken away when she starts her creepy romance with Kaname. Kaname basically just treats her like a pet, and she immediately does everything he asks for the most part. It's sickening on so many levels, and yet the reason why I stopped reading the manga. Number 23, Ramona Flowers from Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Put your torches and pitchforks down and let me explain myself. I'm talking about the film version of Ms. Flowers, not the comic book version because I've yet to read it. I don't know if Ramona comes across better in the comic books, but as it stands, I honestly don't care for her in the film. It's just that she feels like such a bitch over the course of the movie. We can start off by how she's a tease in the scene where she and Scott are in bed, and she just randomly decides she doesn't want to sleep with him. I'm a girl, and even I think that's cold. I don't like cock teases. Of course, a woman always has the right to change her mind about sex, but the way she did it pissed me off and made her seem fickle. Secondly, I feel like this gigantic league of genuinely interesting bad guys fighting over her is never justified. Why is anyone interested in her? She's a 6 at best, she's cold, she's distant, and for the most part, she's pretty damn ungrateful. She's a borderline Mary Sue for that exact reason. I don't see any evidence of what makes Ramona so special that Gideon and the League just have to have her. The last thing is what I mentioned a moment ago. She seems pretty ungrateful for all the bullshit Scott puts up with. At the end, when he rescues her from Gideon's mind control, she doesn't seem all that appreciative of Scott's hard work and sacrifice. Hell, she even starts to walk out on him. It would be better if we could see things from her perspective, but as it stands, I just don't like her, and I can't see this many guys making a fuss over her, even in the zany world of Scott Pilgrim. Number 22, Britta from Community. Britta stretches my rules a bit because she's an intentionally annoying character, but I'm not sure how annoying I should find her because each member of the group has their own hang-ups. However, even though we know her annoyingness is played for laughs, I still can't stand her. I hate all her preaching, I hate all her whining, I hate all her unfunny jokes, I hate her pretense of being a therapist, I hate her faux hipster attitude, and I hate the way she patronizes people. I feel like most of the episodes or jokes centering around her are some of the weakest on a relatively strong show, and I could honestly live without her. For me, Britta really is the worst. Number 21, Marion and Willie from the Indiana Jones films. Don't get me wrong, I like Indies just as much as the next cow. It's a fun franchise up until that atrocious 4th film, and it's rather charming. However, one thing that always ticked me off about Indy is the characterization of women in every film except The Last Crusade. And yes, I know I'm about to make a crap ton of enemies by admitting that I cannot stand both Willie and Marion. I actually had to research why people hate Willie but give Marion a free pass. I remember that Willie is a shrieking, whiny, useless harpy, and I'm fine with that. But what I'm not fine with is that Marion is Willie light. Have you watched Raiders of the Lost Ark lately? Marion bitches and moans the entire time, and I suspect that since Indiana Jones has a male-oriented fandom, the fact that she tries to do things like an action girl makes it okay for her to be an unlikable slop-tart. Now, I did hear that another reason people hate Willie is because she was boffing the director, and that's allegedly why she got the part, but Marion is still a poorly written damsel character nonetheless. I hate that she just takes Indy back without a fight in both Ark and in Crystal Skull. If that makes me a bad fan, then so be it. I guess I nuked the fridge on this one. Number 20, Kelly from Lake Placid. Like Vampire Knight, Lake Placid was mentioned on my Guilty Pleasures list. I love almost every second of this silly, campy, over-the-top, wonderfully sarcastic movie. Except Kelly. Notice how we were just talking about Willie from the Temple of Doom? Take that character, darken her hair, make her shorter, plop her into Lake Placid, and that's Kelly. She is a rude, mean-spirited, ignorant bitch for the entire film. She never gets better. She treats everyone in the cast like shit from start to finish. And even though the writer's trying to soften her up with her romance with Jack the Fish and Game Guy, it still doesn't work. She's the only person I actively wanted to be eaten by the crocodile because she never stopped complaining for an instant, and she was basically useless. I know that non-slutty white girls usually get amnesty in horror films, but this was the one time I wish that rule hadn't been in place. Number 19, Mary Jane Watson in Spider-Man 3. Spider-Man 3 has a ton of problems. A metric ton. I won't go into them because basically everyone and their mom can list why the movie tanked. But one of my personal problems with it is how Mary Jane was a shallow, unforgiving bitch from hell. We saw little peeks of the bitchery in Spider-Man 2, but MJ was mostly justified because Peter appeared to be a flake to her and was sending her mixed signals. However, this is not the case in Spidey 3. She knows Peter's Spider-Man, and yet she does everything she can to make him feel bad about his curse to save people for a living. She's so petty over the course of this film, from whining about getting a bad review to being jealous over Peter's popularity, even though he spent the last 2 films being despised, and then tops it off by cheating on him with his best friend. Honestly, I kind of wanted Eddie Brock to drop her ass off the building. She is a grown woman. She should have been able to handle bad reviews like any other struggling actress would. There's no excuse for her actions, and that's definitely one of the reasons why Spider-Man 3 was so awful. By the end of it, I didn't want Peter to get back with MJ, and that's a hard thing to say for Spider-Man. Number 18, Rain from Gundam. If you watch Toonami, you know about Gundam. However, it's probably the least popular Gundam series aside from the adorably weird SD Gundam. I can understand why. It's goofy and campy and cheesy and borderline racist, but hell, that's why I love it. Gundam is also one of the first anime I ever saw as a kid, and thus one of the first times I ever had shipped. I shipped Domon Kashu and Alan B. Beardsley like nobody's business. And to be honest, I still do. Thus, I've always hated Rain. Like other women on this list, she's barely useful at all, and she's a relentless heartbeat most of the time. I admire that she sticks by Domo, who is a hot-headed and stubborn one at that, but I still hate that she's the endgame love interest. She fixes his Gundam, but that's about the only reason she's in the show. She doesn't do anything else except get rescued and stand on the sideline saying Domo's name 1,000 times during his matches. She's just an uninteresting nuisance, if you ask me. But I digress. Number 17, Dianne from Why Did I Get Married? Yes, I know, one of these things is not like the other. I rarely ever bring up the subject of Tyler Perry because he's a very polarizing figure. I think he has a handful of good plays and exactly 2 good films, and that's precisely why we have a character from his work on my list. Perry isn't the best character writer. Almost all of his characters are copy-pasted from one film to the next, but Dianne is so bad that she manages to stand out amongst all the other stereotypical black folks. For those who don't know, Why Did I Get Married focuses on 4 married couples who take an annual retreat each year to work on their marriages. Dianne is a businesswoman who works 1 billion hours a week, and so her husband is starting to feel neglected. Not to mention, he has been hoping the 2 of them can have another child, this time a son. Instead of being mature and discussing this with him, Dianne decides to get her tubes tied and never tells him. He only finds out when the villain of the film blurts it out in front of him. That is the single most selfish thing I have ever seen someone do in a Tyler Perry film. And trust me, that's saying something. Marriage is supposed to be a give and take. You do not ignore something as important as having children or neglecting your spouse without explaining how you feel and why you feel that way. The fact that Diane's husband puts up with her bullshit and then took her back at the end of the film made me furious. Being that immature and thoughtless makes me want her to spend the rest of her life alone, because no one should have to put up with a wife like that, even in a Tyler Perry movie. Number 16, Tess from 27 Dresses. You can look at me funny if you want, but 27 Dresses is one of my favorite romantic comedies. It's funny, it's genuine, it's sweet, and has the least amount of sappy cliche moments out of most rom-coms I've seen. Plus, Jane, Katherine Heigl's character, is both likable and sympathetic. There are a lot of girls, myself included, who know what it's like to be involved in a one-sided romance, and when the guy you like is in love with a shallow, flaky bitch like Tess. Tess is Jane's younger sister, and I honestly don't know how Jane ever put up with her and left her raise her after their mother died. She's superficial as hell, selfish as all get out, spoiled, immature, spiteful, and just an unpleasant person in general. She is supposed to be the antagonist to a certain degree, but by the time she cuts up her own mother's wedding dress just to use parts of it for her own, knowing that Jane wanted to wear that dress when she got married, I'm personally wanting her to be strung up. To really stick a pin in it, she also lies to a sweet, loving man that claims that there's nothing wrong with doing that. Thus, when Jane exacts her revenge and sets Tess straight, I don't feel like Jane was out of line even though the film stresses that she should feel guilty. I thought Tess deserved worse than that. I think family is one of the most important parts of a person's life, and Tess is anything but a good sister or a good person. Case closed. Number 15, Neela Rasgotra from ER. Speaking of selfish, manipulative bitches, let's talk about ER. You've got to be a special kind of horrible for me to point you out in a cast full of psychotic people like the ones on ER, but Neela manages this with no problem at all. Now, I started watching this show midway through the 12th season because it's something me and my mother, who is a nurse, bonded over. Therefore, I did miss a few of Neela's storylines. However, the one most prominent for her character was her budding romance with hospital hunk Ray Barnett. At first, I was really looking forward to the roomies hooking up, then Neela turned into a massive cock-teasing skank and continued leading Ray on until it literally almost killed him. She screws around with another guy in front of him, so Ray gets drunk and accidentally steps in front of an 18-wheeler while answering a call from her. He is so badly injured that he has to have both his legs amputated. Call me immature, but I think this is all Neela's fault. None of this would have happened if she hadn't been playing with his feelings. It wouldn't have killed her to stop screwing some guy yet pining over Ray enough to give him false hope. They still ended up together because Ray is so sweet that he forgave her, but I certainly didn't, and I don't plan on it anytime soon. Isn't it ironic that the surgeon was heartless? Maybe, maybe not. Number 14, Harmony from Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is one of the greatest films ever made, in my opinion. It's an action comedy that simply gets everything right. Well, everything except the girl. To be fair, Harmony has 2 points in her favor. 1, she is meant to be a fucked up character, and 2, she is not like the other women on this list who are useless. She actually manages to generate, motivate, and advance the plot alongside our snarky fellows. However, she's still a relentless pain in the ass, because she acts like a stupid blonde for the entire film. She gets Harry into trouble so many times that it's a wonder he can still be attracted to her. Hell, it gets so bad that she actually cuts off his finger. Seriously. Harmony is a danger to herself and everyone around her, and most of the crazy events in the movie wouldn't have happened if she had just butted out of the investigation. Still, I can at least give her credit for helping Harry and Perry out a couple of times, and so that's why she's not at the tippy top of the list.